So we're going to see about doing this live. Let me share that with people. See if we'll get people to come on. And we're going to see how many people get on. Lots and lots of wonderful. And we're going to see how many people get on. Lots and lots of wonderful energy. Many people have been talking about how the energy has shifted. And so astrologically speaking, many people have been talking about how the energy has shifted. And so astrologically speaking, many of you might feel better, believe it or not. I'm sharing the live, so if you can share the live as well, that'd be awesome. So astrologically speaking, many of you might feel better, believe it or not. I'm sharing the live, so if you can share the live as well, that'd be awesome. So astrologically speaking, many of you might feel better, believe it or not. I'm sharing the live, so if you can share the live as well, that'd be awesome. So, all right, so let's just wait for people to get on. Hi, Jessica, it's good to see you. Had some really powerful Akashic readings yesterday. Then I had another client come back to me and do another reading and coaching today who had an Akashic reading. And I can share with you the benefits of Akashic readings. If you're playing small, because the New Year's coming, right? The New Year's is upon us. So there's a new opportunity. Again, I told you before that the vibration of 2025 is 9. Hi, Jessica. It's good to see you. It's 9. Okay, that's the number. That's the vibration. And 9 is a co-create. It's God's master number. It's a co-creation number. It's an amazing number. So if you are looking to start your new year, you don't start it on January 1st. Okay, you start it now. You start planning ahead for the new year. And there are a lot of things you can do. One of the interesting things about Akashic readings is that if you are playing small, which, and no offense to anyone, okay, which most people do, the average human beings play small. It's a conditioning brought on by many incarnations when we were slaves, when we were soldiers, foot soldiers, when we were farmers, when we were serfs. It's a conditioning when we were monks or nuns, didn't matter where in the world. And definitely there was some conditioning in the way. So it's like Pavlov's dog, you know what I mean? We are conditioned to live fearfully, carefully. This concept of perfectionism is really based out of fear. Fear. That is the average person. When an average person says, I'm a perfectionist, they're fear-filled. There are some people that are perfectionists that are absolutely not fear-filled. Don't get me wrong. But for the average human being, when they say, "Oh, I'm a perfectionist. I'm just gonna keep polishing my novel." Isn't that the novel you wrote 15 years ago? Didn't you finish this 15 years ago? Yes, but it's not yet ready. I need to polish it before I send it to potential publishers. That's fear. That has nothing to do with perfectionism. Straight up fear. Okay? And I can tell you, oh, hey, how are you? Angie, is that you? Thank you. No, Aries. Thank you, Aries Moon. Great. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing the live. So, vivid question. Vivid dreams. If you have a question, hang on for a second. But yeah, you can ask it. You can start typing. So, does that make sense? So, fear is your jailer. I'm going to tell you a story real quick. My first publishing deal, okay, I didn't get paid. I actually forgot. I don't remember if I got paid. If I got paid, it was not enough to write home about it. But let me tell you the story. So I was writing this erotic story. It was called Moments in Time from Paris to India. It was about soulmates who met in the Louvre Museum and became lovers. And it was a real stretch for me because it was an erotic story that a magazine called Bad Attitude in Cambridge, Massachusetts had asked me to write. And it was about two women who fell in love. And I'd never had that experience, but because I believe in reincarnation, like breathing, I basically tucked into it and tapped into my past lives and wrote a pretty raw, erotic story. Long story short, the grammar was all over the place because I was in future, I was writing past tense, future tense, it was a fucking mess. Why? Because at the time I was working, when I was writing the short story, I was actually picking up the phones at a call center at a bank. Actually, it was Bank of America. I don't give a shit, I might as well tell you. I was like in my early 30s, and I was like writing the erotic story by hand while I was picking up the phone and going back and forth, like fucking talking about multitasking and consciousness. So I finished the story, and I knew that the grammar was fucked, but I knew the story was solid. So guess what? I mailed it as is. I went, fuck this. I can't focus. I gotta just send it. I got no time. And at the time, I had to hire someone to actually type it up for me. And they typed it verbatim. So I got a call a week later. And they said, we fucking love the story. Like, we want to publish it. But we need to, like, you know, is I call a week later. And they said, we fucking love the story. Like, we want to publish it. But we need to, like, you know, is it okay if we edit it? I'm like, of course, please edit it. And it was published, and that was my first publishing gig. Completely fucked, okay? I'm just going to tell you. So this idea, well, I'm not telling you to do that in the future, at least try to, you know, straighten up the grammar. But the point is, that taught me, at the age of like 32, that taught me that if the story is tight, no one gives a fuck. Now, there's a movie right now trending, I'm sure you know, it's called Gladiator. You know, it came out in 2000 with Russell Crowe. And many of you don't know the making of the movie because I used to really be big on making of movies. When the screenplay was pitched to Ridley Scott, Maximus, name was Narcissus. Like narcissism, like narcissist. By the way, it's also the name of a flower. Paper whites. So right off, narcissist. By the way, it's also the name of a flower. Paper whites. So right off the bat, the name was fucked. Okay, but anyway, but the guy who wrote the screenplay originally had the brilliant idea of bringing a 19th century painting, like a print of it, of gladiators on the sand, on the Roman sands. And it wasn't so much the script that got Ridley Scott salivating, it was that painting. That was smart, because the guy gave him a visual. And I don't know if you guys know, but Ridley Scott paints a lot of it. He draws really fast and sketches certain scenes that he gave him a visual. And I don't know if you guys know, but Ridley Scott paints a lot of it. He draws really fast and sketches certain scenes that he's like mocking up in his head, like, you know, screenshots. He draws them before he shoots them. That's why Gladiator was so perfect, because as they were doing the movie, they were rewriting the fucking script. I'm not joking, because it was so bad. And it took like 7 or 8 screenwriters, including they brought in a woman to add the feminine touch to it. And the wheat field, you know, the hands on the wheat, that was Russell Crowe. Strength and Honor, that was Russell Crowe. So a lot of these things were written on the spot. Did you notice there was no perfectionism? In fact, if you listen to Russell Crowe right now, he'll tell you, right? We were writing it as we were doing it. The crew were getting the pages, the rewritten pages, because they kept reformulating the story. Russell and Ridley would go out at bars after the night shoot and just talk. Drink and talk and figure out the... Russell and Ridley would go out at bars after the night shoot and just talk. Drink and talk and figure out the fucking story. And it was written in that way. It was co-created. That's why it's so fucking brilliant, because it's emotional. And so when you're a perfectionist, right, there's no emotions attached to it. You have to let go of the perfectionism to tap into your heart chakra, to write something that's so visceral, so passionate, so rocking and rolling that other people go, holy fuck. Right? It'll be memorable and will haunt. It will keep people up at night. And that's the problem with perfectionism. You're not creating anything that's got passion. You're creating something that's perfected until you might have actually written out the whole life of the story out. I don't care if it's a song. I don't care if it's a screenplay or a book or a book of poetry, a painting, whatever the hell it is. And that's something that people have to like self-realize. Because perfectionism, the way I just expressed it, is not based on anything else but fear of failure. So when you understand that about the work that you put out, I'm not saying don't cross your T's or dot your I's, but I'm saying don't be so obsessed with it. At some point, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. Like I just republished my book, Recall, right? And there's some typos in the book, I'm sure of it. I fucking don't know, but I'm sure there is. And I had a brilliant editor help me put it together and set it up. And but the way I wrote the book is I felt it. It was a past life recollection that it had happened years before, 10 years before, and it was time for it to be birthed. And so I did. And perfectionism was not part of my whole framework. Writing a story that would keep me up at night, which it did. I would be up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, writing it, blasting music, getting me into that zone, blasting ancient, evocative music that felt tribal and, stuff so that I would get really emotionally riled up to read the book. To write the book. It's funny too, because when you write a book, you read a book. In other words, if it's not good enough for you to read it, it's not good enough for you to write it. So it wasn't perfectionism I was after. It was a rawness, authenticity, and that all these emotions to erupt on the page. And so hopefully that's going to help you in your own co-creation with the universe. Firstly, you have to ask yourself, what is it that I don't want? And I notice, and this is very normal, by the way, it could be an age thing. I don't know. I'm thinking it is. Where in your 20s, you don't know what you don't want, and you don't know what you really, really want. You're not sure. You're not sure-footed in your decisions. It could be also the way people are raised. I don't know. But the point is, the first thing you have to understand, and I'm seeing this a lot in my readings recently when I do tarot readings, psychic readings, Akashic readings, what I notice is a theme. And the theme is, I'm not sure what I don't want. Well, that's a fucking problem, because you need to know what you don't want. It's really as simple as saying, I don't like beans on my plate. It's as simple as saying, I really don't like chicken at all, so please don't put it on my plate. So the first thing you want to do when you're about to try to figure out what your mission is to figure out what the fuck you don't want at all in your life. I don't care if it's, I don't want to live in the city. I don't want to live in this apartment. I don't want to live, sadly, in my car. You put the obvious shit that you don't want. And then on the column next, opposite that column of don'ts, what I don't want, you should be able to start articulating to yourself, well, I don't want that, but I want this. And so this kind of self-realization, self-exploration is really, really important before you drive yourself into the mission. Because as long as you're always in a state of confusion and pausing, hitting the brakes constantly, because, can you imagine driving down the street and just hitting the brakes every fucking 10 seconds? You're not going anywhere. And you're actually going to make mistakes. And it's what people actually do. They're constantly hitting the brakes because they're not sure. And at some point, once you make a decision on a move, you better be sure. You got to be sure-footed. You have no other choice but to be sure-footed. If you fall on your face, well, you've learned that that's not the way to do it. In fact, some of the most successful millionaires, billionaires have said one thing. They all said one thing in common, all of them. I've had thousands of mistakes, thousands of failures before I hit the jackpot. And the difference between successful people, and when I mean successful, there's different levels of success. We're going to be talking about material success, not emotional success. There's two different things. But material success is when you realize that no matter how many failures, you're still going to get up and go. And most people quit right before it's about to hit. Most people quit. So the secret to success, and don't get me wrong, I have my dark moments as well. I'm not walking on water and levitating off the ground. But one thing I'll say is that you don't stay down too long. In other words, you can't afford it. And the problem with staying down too long is that it becomes your personality. It becomes a habit that turns into a personality. I'm trying to remember who said that because it was brilliant. But somebody said that. It could have been Dr. Joe Dispenza. Yes, it was him. I just remembered. It was. He said, it's a behavior. It's a habit that turns into a behavior that turns into your personality. I believe that's how he said it. Irregardless. Do you see? I said it, perhaps quite imperfectly. But you got the gist of it. Does that make sense? Perfection is the enemy of good. Very good. Thank you for that line. That's really a good line. Does that make any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? So when you want to pursue success, right, you're going to have to be ready to fall on your face. And that's it. Please read the room, okay? Please. Before you ask questions like that, okay? And so, long story short, what I want to say to you is that your success in the material world, in the challenges you're being faced with, believe me, we're all being fucking tested to the very fucking maximum. And quite often, the normal is I'm so sick of this, but I just want to quit. And it is a normal reaction to sometimes quite impossible odds. But I can tell you that there's something about you that has to become bullish. And until the universe slaps you back hard to say, no, that's not the direction, you're not listening. Until that happens, until you're knocked on your butt, you keep on going. It's okay, the wall is in front of me, I'm going to fucking... Until that happens, until you're knocked on your butt, you keep on going. It's okay, the wall is in front of me, I'm going to fucking go around the wall. I'm going to stay the wall. I'm going around the other side of that wall. Oh, there is no way. Okay, let me go ahead and dig underneath the wall. Oh, there is no way. Okay, well, let me dynamite the wall apart. Okay, now I'm walking in. Or, oh, that is not the path. Oh, let me go and, take a moment to do a 360 to see where I need to be. You know what I mean? Should I be here? Is this the path? Is that the path? And then the same tenacity has to be now marshaled in a new direction, or the final pushing against the wall where it collapsed was, okay, you're allowed. You really want this, don't you? Yeah, I do. Okay, we're allowing you in. You never know, honestly, until you're either it's impossible odds or it's not. It's you just the doors of Shambhala just opened for you, for example. You know what I mean? So any questions or comments on that? Any questions or comments? Any questions at all on that? All right. So you can ask any question you want, but not about you. Okay? Like if you want to share a question that would help the collective, that would be very kind of you. Okay? This live, and my lives I don't do yes or no questions. You know that. I not to denigrate other people who do it, but it's not what I do at all. And why? Because I'm not taking on that kind of karma to answer a question like that. My style, I hope by now. Any questions or comments? Anything that you want to share with the collective? Okay, do you what is keeping you from, quote unquote, being successful in your passion? What is preventing you? What exactly is your block? Do you know what your block is? This is not the time to be shy. This is a good opportunity for you to share. There's only like 9 people. It's not like the world's watching. Do you know what is blocking your energy to actually materially become the kind of success that you want to be? Whether it's being a healer to the collective, whether it's to be a teacher to the collective, what is blocking you? Do you know what it is? Let me see. Hang on. Okay. Fear of speaking up. Fear of speaking up. Okay, meanwhile, some idiot makes some comments. If you don't like the live, keep scrolling. Fear of speaking up. I'm going to tell you something, Amanda. Fear of speaking up comes from past life stuff. So I'll give you an example. So if you were born during the Inquisition, and let's say you were a painter and you painted Maria Magdalena in walking beside Yeshua, that would have probably been thought of as blasphemous. And you would have probably been grabbed by the Inquisitor to be put on the rack, to be tortured until you admitted some shit that wasn't real. So fear of speaking up is usually, did you get the analogy of the painting? There were people who wanted to translate the Bible in the common language, okay, of the people, which, for example, right? Because it was in Latin. It was originally Aramaic, Greek, Latin, and of course Latin was the final language, and most people couldn't even read, but they definitely didn't. Most people, unless you were highly educated, didn't know Latin. So those people were burned at the stake. Imagine that. People were burned at the stakes or hurt because they spoke out against, say, the plague, and they knew what was causing the plague. Like, I don't know, hygiene. Killing cats was not a good idea because here, look at the fucking overpopulation of rats. And so a person like that would have been bullied by the community, right? Because you were saying something that no one could wrap their head around, which today we know is quite obviously would have been important. Hygiene and, controlling the population of rats, obviously, for example, for the plague. So my point to you is that when you say I have a fear of speaking up, it's not just from this incarnation, though, and here let me explain this even further, is if you've had past lives that reverberated that kind of fear, your frequency would have been matched to a family who would make you fearful of speaking up. Did you get that? Any questions on that? So that means that family that you were put into, if you have that kind of situation, oh, thank you, Jessica. I will. Does that make sense so far? So if that's what happened, right? And you were put in a family in this incarnation where you're not allowed to speak up, you're not allowed to speak your truth, or maybe you're a golden child, which is just as bad as being a black sheep or a scapegoat. It's just as bad. It's a different bad, but it's just as bad. So if you were in a family unit that created that in this incarnation, then I suggest you go into hypnotherapy to excavate that crap so that you can become very comfortable in speaking up for yourself, for injustice, for the collective. Just because you should. And so, one of the things, and I don't know if that's your story, but it could be that your voice shakes if you're going to be public speaking, for example. Your voice shakes when you're about to say something. I don't know, maybe that's not your story. Maybe it's just speaking up. And so you keep to yourself, and if anything is going to come up, you don't want to have a fallout. You don't want to have a conflict. And the problem with people who are afraid of conflict is that you are suppressing, you are stone by stone suppressing your truths and your experiences, and you are actually hurting your inner little child, your little girl, little boy. And at that point, you're never going to feel face. I've always been fighting to speak up, and it breaks me emotionally and physically. Yeah, it's a past life shit. Absolutely. Amanda, it's a past life. I know for a fact, because I do hypnotherapy. This is the work I do. Besides being a psychic tarot reader and an Akashic reader, I actually trained to be a hypnotherapist, because when I had my first session at around 31, I saw how it changed my life, and it continued. Whenever I had a question, I would go to my hypnotherapist. And so I wanted to become one, so I am. And what I found in my hypnotherapy sessions with clients all over the world, different types of people, right? Different cultures, different races, different backgrounds, and so forth. And one of the things I notice is that when these things are a blockage, hypnotherapy really, the level of spiritual healing is you can't quantify that at all. It's insane. Okay? So I would suggest that. And the fact that it breaks you emotionally and physically is heartbreaking to me. That's just, it frustrates me, because I can see my success if I can get past it. Yeah, but the thing is, you're blocked. So you need to do a hypnotherapy session. You know, you can go on my website if you want. Go on my website. It's on my Linktree, and check it out and see what I talk about. And also, I have a whole. If you go on my profile, you see that I have different things. I talk about hypnotherapy, Akashic readings, and so forth. And I just did, actually, it's probably pinned, come to think of it, on hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is like, you can't, the level of healing, Eric Milton, Eric, I'm trying to remember his name. Eric Milton, what was his name? I forgot his name. Eric, he was like a speed therapist who thought that you should be healed in 20 to no more than 30 sessions. And he was very, very much into hypnotherapy because of what it does. Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Because this is a good time to ask me questions on that level, because it's going to help you, I hope. One of the things that I deal with, like, for example, is I had my book, A Recall, published last year, right? And in fact, November of last year. And I actually just did absolutely nothing with the book, A Recall, published last year, right? And in fact, November of last year. And I actually just did absolutely nothing with it at all. And if you go on my profile page, you'll see that I've been doing a lot of mini movies on what I can share public, on the internet, because it is very raw, it's very erotic, and it's very, and the subject matter is really, really intense. And finally, I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to start working on that. And that is inspiring me to work on my second, actually, it's going to be my third book on star seeds and Akashic readings that I've been doing for the past year. And in particular, the past year, to see how we fell. And how we fell from high dimensions to 3 dimensions into these into amnesia is something that absolutely fascinates me. Absolutely. So, like, for example, today I had this young man who is in Hawaii, and he did an Akashic reading with me, like, what was it? About a month ago, I guess, 5 weeks ago. And so we did a reading for him. And one of the things he said was that it really changed everything. Like the level of upgrades that he was getting, Ascension like code upgrades, was like, it was blowing his mind. He was like, he had been starting to have those 2 weeks before he met me for this Akashic, but it was like the cherry on the cake. He was like, he had been starting to have those 2 weeks before he met me for this Akashic, but it was like the cherry on the cake. And it gave him so much more confidence in who he is and why he's here and what he has to watch out for. It was, believe me, Akashic records aren't always going to make you the hero. Okay, just so you know. What's a good example of that? Hang on. I'm trying to remember. I had a really good Akashic reading yesterday, which was really fucking crazy. Because in it, hang on for a quick second. Let me see if I can find it. This woman, hang on. I gotta tell you, because it was so fucking insane. Oh yeah, okay. So Egypt, okay, so one of the first incarnations, it comes in, it doesn't come in how do I put it? In order, okay? When I do these readings, it's really interesting. Anyway, so what happened was she was a reptilian hybrid / humanoid. I think it's fair to say it was before Atlantis had even been formed. And it looked like Egypt or Egyptian, because there's been pyramids all over the world. As you know that, right? They've even found through satellites pyramids in the water. Yes? Okay. So anyway, she was a android. She was a reptilian / hybrid humanoid. Interesting, incredible eyes. Just bald, and she was working on, I think, I'm trying to remember what it was yesterday. It's fucking insane because I've had so many readings. But anyway, she was oh yes. The reason why they had created her as a hybrid was to see if they could take, to get more connected to the heart chakra. Reptilian, right? There is no real heart chakra connection, right? There's no emotional connection. We know that from the reptilians who are known as the draconians, right? You guys know that. They're cold ass. They have no feelings. if they get a feeling from what I've seen, it's usually a surge. They love to destroy. They love to conquer. They love to oppress. That's their thing. David Icke talks about that too, by the way. You may want to check him out. But anyway, so the whole hybrid project was to see if they could incorporate, somehow move the reptilian and soften the energy of the reptilian with the humanoid blood, and to make it more balanced between the mind and the heart, is when he began. And so she lived for like 350 years, and then one day decided it was time to drop her body. And she did. And by the way, there are footages, you can look it up, of shamans and holy men and women who literally will sit up on the couch or whatever, and they literally voluntarily can drop their, but it's time, I gotta go, I'm leaving, goodbye, love you all, I'll see you on the flip side of the moon. And they, boom, drop their body. And there's been footages of that. One footage I saw was in the Amazonian jungles of a shaman who did exactly that. It was unbelievable to watch. Okay, so anyway, she drops her body, and she has these other type of human experiences. And as she drops her body, one of the things that she does is she incarnates as a female, cold-blooded, Killer. Okay, I wouldn't say she was definitely not in the ninja category, but it was something either in China, or I couldn't tell, or Korea in the ancient times. She was very tall, like 6'2", and in Korea and the Mandarins in China, are actually a tall people. Okay, so that's something that most people will know. But anyway, so there's this incredible power, and she reminded me of the knight, the female knight in Games of Thrones. She was like that. And unfortunately, she got into liking that, to do that to other people. And so her reptilian energy came back in that particular incarnation. And that's when she went from remembering everything, kind of like Matias de Stefano remembers everything, right? Into lights out, amnesia, like spiritual Alzheimer's, like gone, done. And at that point, the cycle started. And one of the cycles that she had was where she was in the court of the French court in the 17th century, and absolutely not into sex, absolutely not, and totally into dressing. I mean, it would take her 4 hours to dress. She was all about spending money and totally self-absorbed. And the contrast of that life, I asked her, what do you think that means? She goes, I fucking hate that life. I go, to be honest with you, I hated it too. It's a shitty life where you're literally doing your toilette for 4 hours before, it's time to go out into the halls of the court for balls and bullshit, and you're wearing these periwigs and white pasty makeup and little patches of black, and just crazy shit that was very big in the 17th century. And the contrast was this aspect of remember your origins, remember who you are. You are a powerful soul in Egypt as a hybrid reptilian humanoid. You were actually trying to help the human race. You were trying to refine the breeding cycle, and you were part of that because you were basically, two different species. And that gave her a sense of confidence and a sense of purpose, because the other life was shit. So it was complete ignorance, complete self-absorption, and complete, just crap. What's interesting right now, because I think of the awakening that's been happening since massively the lockdown, but crap. What's interesting right now, because I think of the awakening that's been happening since massively the lockdown, but I know some people it's been 2017, some people it's been sooner, earlier in their life, and some people really got awakened during the lockdowns. But what I will say to you is that when Dr. Michael Newton, who wrote the books Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, was doing hypnotherapy up in Grass Valley, California, about 30% of his clients were coming in having past lives on other planets. Today, I can tell you, and it's a lot to do with the awakenings that are happening at an incredible rapid rate, is that people are coming to me, and I'd say 80% are remembering past lives through hypnotherapy, by the way, just on the side note, not just through hypnotherapy, but I'm seeing them coming in, and I'm getting downloads of through the Akashic of them having had experiences on other planets as different sentient beings, which is really interesting because it's showing me how we fell. And all of us fell in different ways. Some of us got betrayed. Some of us got tricked. Some of us, we fell because we really did fuck up. We were assholes. Some of us, we thought, well, I'm just going to step down and just experience that just because I want more empathy. I want to, understand the human experience. Bad idea. Lights out. Lights out. And at that point, however we fell, created the collective domino effect and also the hamster wheel of reincarnation, like on a conveyor belt, 3, 4, 5 incarnations, and collective domino effect, and also the hamster wheel of reincarnation, like on a conveyor belt, 3, 4, 5 incarnations in a 100-year period, things like that, concurrent incarnations, and so forth. And it's really created a lot of suffering for us, right? And so we've been so you got to understand, we've been programmed, you understand, in terms of playing small, because in many of these incarnations as humans, I mean, like I said, I tell a lot of my clients, and I've said this to you in lives, where go watch all these movies, Braveheart, Gladiator, Yeshua, The Passion of the Christ. What happens to all the protagonists? What happens to all of these heroes? They fucking lose. At the end, they lose. Now, what's interesting is that our truth today? Fuck no, it isn't. Okay, but was it a reality? Like Spartacus, was it a reality? Yes, it was. We lost more often than not. So after having incarnation of that reality of losing the good fight, it would make you lose your voice. It would make you afraid to step out and take chances, because the price. Let me look at. Remember Braveheart? The price. Do you remember the last scenes? I don't know if you cried, but I sure in the hell bawled my eyes out. I can't watch the end of that movie. I love the whole movie except the end. I turn it off. I can't watch it. Because it also probably triggers in me my own trauma of having gone through something very similar. Does that make sense? I mean, there's empathy and then there's recall. In me, my own trauma of having gone through something very similar. Does that make sense? I mean, there's empathy and then there's recall, right? So any questions or comments so far? Any questions or comments? Thank you for liking the live, Amanda. I appreciate it. So any questions? Is that what they call a knot or block on the throat chakra? Yes. And exactly. And it's not just the throat chakra. It's all, it could be the root chakra where you feel unsafe. It could be, well, imagine, okay, I'm just going to be very brutal, okay? This is, I mean, we're hopefully all adults. But if a person dies, right? They're unalive while they're being raped, right? Okay, that's going to fuck you up for a few incarnations. I'm sorry. That's not an easy one to get over just off the bat. And especially if, just wrap your head around and imagine all the scenarios, and then look at people who are unable to be intimate and nothing's happened to them in this incarnation. That's past life. Does that make sense? It's past life shit. People who, in fact, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it in his book. I believe it's in Becoming Supernatural, where he's literally in the kitchen washing, I think he's washing dishes or something, and suddenly out of nowhere, an entire past life is downloaded. And it's a past life where he was a speaker. He was speaking out against the leaders of that time. It was ancient Greece. It could have been Rome. I forgot. But anyway, suffice it to say, they were in togas, tunics, so on. And he's put on the rack in public. And he is broken. They broke his soul. And from the rest of his life, he shuffled, and because they hurt him physically, and they broke his spirit. And that download came to him because he was having some problems. I guess he was having, it might have been imposter syndrome. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I read the book a while back. But once that download came, he was right as rain. He went right back into speaking publicly and doing his thing. When Shirley MacLaine wrote her book Out on a Limb, and people were, I mean, you should have seen the interviews in the 80s. You guys who were born in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you would be shocked at how badly she was treated for that book, how she was laughed at and bullied and demeaned, and it went on for years. And if you've noticed, as brilliant as she was, she's never written a book on that level. And what was she writing? Well, first of all, it was called Out on a Limb, and it was about her going to Peru, wink, wink, and she saw UFOs. No shit, and that's, everyone knows there's tons of fucking activity in Peru. For you guys who think that this whole activity in the sky is new, it's always been this way. Just so you know, I was watching massive activities, and I've talked about it in many of my lives. Massive activities from the 70s, 80s, 90s. This is not new shit. It's just that everyone has a phone now that can more or less try to record it if they can. But nothing's new, okay? Mexico's known for having lots of activity. Different parts of the world, you know, there's activity. So my point, though, is when she wrote about her experiences in Peru, in Malibu, in her house, and it looked like she also had a twin flame connection with what was it called? He was a British politician in London, and she had an affair with him. And it was obvious that it was a twin flame connection. To me, it was obvious. Let's put it that way. And all of these things, you know, basically she's muzzled. She was muzzled. So if you've noticed, she just plays in her little corner. What I mean is she's a great actress, and she just stays in her lane as acting. She's not going out on a limb anymore. But if you guys are exploring what books to read, the one woman we had besides Louise Hay was Shirley MacLaine, and they shut her ass down, period. Meanwhile, right now, there's not one woman I can refer you to, which is fucked up. I wish I could. That is a powerful spiritualist in that level that we're talking about. Do I have women that are, that is a powerful spiritualist in that level that we're talking about? Do I have women that are amazing, that have written amazing books? Yeah, and I've actually recommended those books in previous lives. One of them is Marguerite Rigliadini, and she writes books on the high priestesses and the goddess cult and the Immaculate Conceptions, and how that was a high priestess, what is it? I wouldn't say gift, skill set. It wasn't just Mother Mary that could do it. In fact, Mother Mary did do it, but it was something that the ISIS, I'm not going to call it cult, but the ISIS temple, the Temple of Isis, that's what I meant, would study how to do that. It was part of their rituals. A good book, though it is fiction, though I think it's one of the most incredible books written, is called, or you might want to watch the movie if you can find it, good luck. It's called The Mists of Avalon. And it talks about Morgana and King Arthur, but it's through the eyes of Morgana. And it is such an incredible fucking story. And I almost feel, it's so incredible that I almost feel like the writer, the author, which was a woman who wrote it right before she died, was channeling a truth. Now they're talking about King Arthur did exist. Now stories are coming out that it was not a myth. It was a man that actually lived. And there was such a thing as the Round Table. So there's a lot of things that, it's interesting too, because you look at like dragons, right? And you go, oh, it's just a myth. No. There was a time when there were dragons. And you might think, well, that's impossible. Really? We had dinosaurs. There's a rumor going around that they found dinosaur prints next to the footprints. I mean, you know, and I think Billy Carson was one of the people who actually reported that. So now what? I know that Graham Hancock's talked about the Sphinx and the pyramids being way, way older. He said that in the 1990s. And now finally, the egoic Egyptologists and anthropologists, they're filled with self-importance, have now to acquiesce to what Graham Hancock had said years ago. Egyptologists and anthropologists, they're filled with self-importance, have now to acquiesce to what Graham Hancock had said years ago, and he was laughed at. So what's beautiful about the time you live in, my friends, is that a lot of discoveries are happening before your eyes. It's fantastic. It's an incredible time to be alive. The only thing that is problematic, in my humble opinion, is that we still have too many people who are living in their cars, if they're even that lucky to live in their car. Okay? So what's happening now with our phones, we have recorded our discoveries, our pains, our loves, our triumphs, our questions, our rage, the injustice. We have used our phones in the way it was always meant to be used, to teach each other about the truth that had been hidden from us for millennia. And so if we're finally there, we're finally walking towards the final light, right? And with that comes a change of the guard. And that is an exciting time for you to be alive. And so if you're not sure and you're getting frustrated because you're not sure what your mission is, your mission will unravel and show itself to you once you stop hesitating and hitting the brakes every 10 seconds. Does that make sense? Any questions at all? Any questions at all on the subject? Does that make sense? Any questions? So, because many of you come to me when you do readings with me, right? Akashic readings, tarot readings, psychic readings, hypnotherapy, and go, when will I know? What is my mission? What is my mission? Until you're fearless, why would they give you your mission? Do you think I would give the car keys to a fucking Lamborghini to someone who's afraid of driving? They can't drive over 20 miles an hour without hitting the brakes? No fucking way. So the keys to your mission will not be handed to you until you become a badass and you become fearless. That's it. It's that simple. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. What a great line. There aren't that many lines I like, but that's one of them. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Your brain is actually your jailer. The planet is not a prison planet. Your brain is. Does that make sense? And until you understand that, and until you realize that it is your brain that you need to master, then once you master your brain, if we can all do that collectively, one by one, self-healing, be the change you're looking for. Yeah, don't change the planet, change yourself. That's when suddenly we will be catapulted into 560 new Earth. But it can't happen if you're not a frequency match because, see, there's no fear in 560. As a matter of fact, some of the ways people died and dropped into from 560 to 3D was actually fear. It was a foreign feeling, but it was a shock. And some of them were betrayed in such a way that they were shocked, and then fear crept in, and it didn't even know what it was, but they dropped their bodies in that frequency, and that was lights out. Let's go into amnesia, and let's go. Now you're in 3D for God knows how long. Does that make sense? Thank you. Yes, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Yes. So that's what we need to understand. Okay? Because if you guys keep going for these, no offense, okay? As long as you, look, let me just put it to you this way. I know friends of mine who will watch horror movies for the fuck of it. As long as you know it's entertainment. But when you start looking at concurrent creators telling you that this is a prison planet, then when you die, don't go to light because blah, 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 you are now fucked. Do you know there are people who are afraid of dying now? Not because they're afraid of dying, right? But they're afraid of what's going to happen when they die. Instead of going, I'm going to die, and I'm just going to sit still. Okay, I'm going to die. Okay, so now I'm dead, and now, okay, I'm just going to sit cross-legged. Let's assume we can do that, which we can. And I'm just going to sit and feel it. I've done this heart coherence for so long in my human incarnation. I'm just going to sit and feel it. I've done this heart coherence for so long in my human incarnation. I'm pretty streetwise as a soul now. No one can fuck me over like they did, like, I don't know, 30,000 years ago when they said, yeah, come on for the meeting. And boom, there goes the entire planet. I hope you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about some of the genos that were going on in off planets with the reptilians, okay? We're not naive anymore like we were before. When we started falling from high dimensional, when we were part of a very pure hive mentality, the ocean of consciousness, right? And then we started falling and wanting, and then incarnate into individual carbon matter, right? For example. And then we ended up coming to this level. We were innocent until we went through the hamster wheel, the grinding machine of this particular planet. And we got to be the evil that we fought against, and we were the light that fought the evil we had been. None of us are innocent. Once we went through those cycles, now that we have actually graduated, we're now out of high school. Many of us are out of high school. You're not coming back. You won't be a frequency match to 3D anymore. That's why you're not coming back. No, I don't want to come back. No, that's not good enough. Sorry. And so the last thing you got to do as you loop back up to the dimensions is realizing, right, that you are now a badass, streetwise MFer with a pure gold heart, and you're fearless, but you'll never be played again like you were before in other planets when your people or sentient beings and species were taken out by draconians. You're going back up the loop, streetwise, and going up the incarnation, right, ladder of new life forms, including humanoid life forms, and you are not going to be harmed again. And the only thing that can bring you back into 3D is fear. Fear is the very thing that each of us like, I can't make you fearless. This is a gift only you can give to yourself. Just like you can't make me fearless. I have to do it for myself. I can't give it to you. You can't give it to me. However, based on the 100 monkey theory, which is science, if I do it and you do it and someone else does it and someone else does it, it becomes a domino effect, which I talk about quite often. And at that point, game fucking over. Do you understand? We will no longer be a match to 3D frequency. It won't even be, oh my God, I just don't want to leave my family. I just, there'll be that regret, but you'll be so fucking on the high platform of your ascension that even your desire to stay behind will not be, it won't happen because you won't be a match. You get me? This is why twins sometimes separate. Quite often the separation is, and what I mean by separation is when the universe has pulled you apart and there's no contact, you don't know where the fuck they are or whatever, you don't even see each other, you don't bump into each other, it's, zero contact, right? When that happens, it's the universe pulling you apart because you're no longer a frequency match. As long as you and your twin are still bumping into each other in the store, in this, in that, it's the universe saying, what the fuck are you guys doing? We had a plan. You were supposed to incarnate together, get your shit together, go into union, help the planet. You're fucking up. This is why you keep bumping into each other. This is why you're still like talking to each other, but it ends in a fight or they don't fucking call you for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever the fuck happens, right? But the constant communication is more or less here. It might not be what you want, don't get me wrong, but you're still in communication. You get me? So when that is happening, the universe is helping both of you in working this out. So again, when you're listening to content creators telling you to block your twin, unless you are shoving each other's heads through a wall, unless there's physical and emotional abuse, unless it is off, then of course you do not continue the relationship. And it may be that in this incarnation, you will not be able to continue this relationship, sadly, because the person's unhinged, okay? And it's not safe for you. Not to mention the universe is saying, do you really love them that much that you're going to allow them to harm you again and again, physically, emotionally, whatever, and damage you? Clearly the answer is no, I hope, for you. However, if all it is your basic ego, your self-importance, their self-importance, in creating the dynamics of just not saying, what the fuck, I'm in love with you, and let's just get it together. Like today, this beautiful young soul was saying, I was saying, well, let me ask you this. Who broke up? Well, we both broke up. Why? Well, because we thought maybe we could be better off healing ourselves alone. Why? Well, because I just didn't think we could do this together. Are you still thinking about each other? Yes. Was the sex off the charts? Yes. Did you enjoy being together? Was it fun? Yes. Is this your best? Yes. Why are you apart? Do you see, there's something in our society, okay, just saying, that is so hell-bent on codependency that sometimes that is a truth, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes two people are put together to work it out together, to explore their own self-realization together, apart together. If you've ever read Khalil Gibran's On the Marriage in the book The Prophet, together, apart, together, apart, together. If you've ever read Khalil Gibran's On the Marriage in the book The Prophet, together, apart, together, apart, together. If you've ever read Khalil Gibran's On the Marriage in the book The Prophet, he clearly says you are not, you're not Siamese twins, basically. You're supposed to have a lot of wind in between you. But if all that is ailing a relationship is a feeling of ill ease in one's skin, then why not stay together and work it out and give each other space and maybe even, be in separate bedrooms for a while, actually, believe it or not. And then work and just be best friends and be lovers when it's supposed to and read the books. I said to him, or not, and then work and just be best friends and be lovers when it's supposed to and read the books. I said to him, how many women could you read these esoteric books with? How many women could you laugh at some crazy off the rocks shit that only she knows? And he said, no one else. I go, you think you're replaceable? You think you guys are replaceable to each other? Aren't you twins? And I say, yes. There's something in society that is psyoping many twins who have no business being in separation. None. It's ego. It's influenced by social media, magazines, people who think they know what they're talking about. Let me ask you this, and this is a question I'm asking you to ask yourself. Are these people whose advice you're taking, are they fucking happy? Because I can tell you, when my twin was alive, I was fucking happy. Did we have really bad issues? Yes. But when we were together, I don't know what it was, but it was like home. It felt like, I'm home. And he felt the same way. And so separations happen over a third-party situation, which can happen quite often. And the third party isn't necessarily, it's not necessarily another lover. Sometimes the third party is a child. Sometimes the third party is a job, a state, being in a different state. Like I have a third party is a child. Sometimes the third party is a job, a state, being in a different state. Like I have a twin right now who, this person lives in another state. She lives in another state. And he had these experiences where both these women that he was with moved out of state to be with him. Then it broke up, and he was blamed for the relationship not working and changing their lives and this and that. And when you live your life and you decide to go to Portugal for someone, let's say you do that, and after a year it doesn't work out, you don't blame the person that you moved your entire life to Portugal. You have to understand that there were other reasons why you went to Portugal. It wasn't just to be with that. Do you understand where I'm getting here? Portugal was a destination. Your twin was in Portugal, but you also had divine appointments with other people, divine experiences that were set and had to be in Portugal. It just happens that your twin was also in Portugal, unless you break up. The divine appointments continue long after. And maybe the land itself is important for you to recalibrate yourself, just walking on that land, because maybe you were there a few incarnations. And so it's almost like walking through the land and literally having spontaneous soul retrieval moments. I'm not joking. Maybe you died as a soldier, or whatever, however it happened. When the twin is in Portugal and moves to France, you don't bemoan them moving to France. They have a divine appointment to go to France. Why? Because they have certain things to learn and to heal. And then they come back. And then you get back together again. But most people won't. Why? Because they constantly want to make it harder than it should be. Are they coming back to you better? Typically, when twins separate and they come back, they're better than they were the last time. And every time there's a separation, I've noticed for myself and for other people, it's better and better and better and purer and truer and more magnificent. If that's not your truth, then that's a sign that it may not be a twin. It could be a sign. Does that make sense? But it's always an improvement. Let me see. Let me read your comments. My ex was like that. It was sad to watch. Namaste. We broke up because I can't bear the children he wants. I can't bear the children he wants. Oh my God. He wants children. Okay, no. He wants children. Okay, no. Okay, I'm trying not to say because I'm known not to be diplomatic. If he's your twin and you can't have children, then guess what? He's not supposed to have children. And if he has children with a woman, just a woman, unless she's a high-level soulmate, he could have children, and it's not it's just karma. I'm just telling you straight up. It could be that he could have a child or children that have serious issues. Do you understand? Sometimes you have to ask yourself, my love is greater for this woman than the need for me to procreate progenies. Right? What is it in him that he needs to have children so badly that he would walk away from the love of his life? And the problem, and sorry guys, I'm just gonna say straight up, that's not all men, but it's a lot of men. Men make, I know, because I've had clients come to me going, yeah, I had the love of my life and I fucked up. I really fucked it up. And I go, how many loves of your life? I've told this story before. How many loves have you had in one incarnation, this incarnation? Three? And so this one is what? Because I had said to him, oh, by the way, this is a twin flame. And he said, this is my third love of my life. And I went, and this is what I said. And you guys, as men, you need to wake up. There will be always a conveyor belt of 18, 19, 20, 30-year-old women that have great asses. It's a conveyor belt. There will always be great-looking men. It's a conveyor belt. However, to have a woman or man that loves you and is a twin, and to fuck that up because something better might come up. There's so many, especially that's a man problem. Something better might come up. Dude, no, that was it. You hit the jackpot and you just threw gold in the ocean, and now you're going for fool's gold. And I know this, and I remember telling this client, at most in an incarnation, you will have, if you're very lucky, one, very, very lucky, two. I've had two in my incarnation, and a third. She's your last girl. You better go get that girl. You better do whatever the fuck you need to do to convince her that you won't fuck up again. Because this is it. After that, it's just one pretty face after another. Do something, because this is it. And he was like, oh shit. And I go, yeah, that's right. That's how it works. And you've been very blessed with three. And you still fucked it up. No offense. I just say, I'm not easy, okay? Because I'm here to make sure that when a client is in front of me, I am very kind. But when they fuck up, my job is to say, don't do that again. Like fix this. You have time to, you're still a good looking man. You're still young. He was in his 40s. You're still young. She was, guess what? The classic twin flame, one of the classic signs. She was damn near 16 years younger than him. That's one of the classic things, is an age disparity. Either the woman's older or the man's older. Like my twin, it was almost 16 years of difference. And that's classic. Race difference, religious difference, all kinds of, you're not my type. No, I know I'm not your type either. You're not my type either, but I can't get enough of you. That's also something in twin flames that can happen. And it's bizarre, okay? So men who are twins, or not twins, just guys out there, they're always looking for what's on the other side of the hill. It is, there's some kind of development on that, meaning it is based on the hunter energy of a hunter, always looking for the next hunt, right? But that's primal urges. And when you go through the ascension, primal urges like that, right? Animalistic urges like that need to be mastered. So if you recognize a woman as your twin, and men are amazing too, because men will be the ones saying, I'm marrying that woman. She's the mother of my children. They'll know, boom, on the spot. Usually those are sacred divine masculines. They'll know. They'll see. They'll go, that woman, I will never cheat on her. I've had men tell me that. That woman, I will not. She's my. And they don't. They actually don't. And those are former players who say that and never break their word. I met a man who was married to his wife 40 years, met her in Mexico, married within 24 hours, had 2 sons, and never divorced. Never cheated on that woman. When men are good, they're fucking amazing. But when men play that, there's got to be something better. I can't commit to you. There might be something better. You're fucking up, my friends, because it's not better. And the universe, knowing this kind of energy, will not send you anything else. They'll go, this is it, or there's nothing. On the guy who had 3 loves, he had a different karma, and not everyone's, honestly, not everyone is blessed to have ever 3 loves. The basic average I've seen throughout, my incarnation here and what I do with clients is 2. The high level soulmate and the twin flame, for example, or twin ray. And that's it. And that's that. And so any questions or comments, feel free to share your own experiences, please. Prove me wrong, because I don't think I am. Any questions or comments on that? All right. So what else do you want to know? What questions do you have? This is a good time to ask me, but please don't ask me about your personal life story, please. If you want a reading, go on my profile. I'm there, okay? I'll be happy to do a reading for you. But ask me a question that is preventing you from becoming fearless, from having heart coherence, from being able to recognize when you've hit the jackpot with another human being. What is it that's preventing you to see that? What is it? Now, one of the things, feel free to type away. Let me know. Say, I'm going to ask you a question. Feel free. All right, let me answer a question about men or women who have a masculine, you're right? People who are same gender, but who might move into the masculine energy more so than not. Okay. There is a wiring in masculines when they don't feel worthy. Now, women do it too, but we tend to still want to be picked. Okay. Just on the side note, for the most part. Again, for the most part, but it's not for everyone. But men, when they don't feel worthy with a twin, okay, when they feel they don't have the money, because what has been the message for the last 100 years, at least 100 years, if not 2, that if you don't have money, you are not a worthy man. If you can't take care of your woman financially, you are not a worthy man. And is that message been magnified in the last 20 years? Fuck yeah. Actually, 40 years. Yeah. You'll have women saying, oh my God, I'll never date a man making $55,000 a year. Never. Never. And it's funny how you have to explain to women that men who make millions per year, right, have side chicks. Very rarely do you have a man who's going to be monogamous. And are they out there? Of course they are. There are men like that who are totally enamored of their wives. And they're multimillionaires, very, very successful and very happy. But for the most part, that's not the reality. And yet, there are men who also cheat, who make $50,000. Fuck, some of them make no money. They're broke. But this idea of looking at and choosing a man by what he has in his bank account as opposed to the content of his character is a problem that is going to harm. I fear that you will have a generation of women who want to be sugar babies, who want to be, who will end up in their 60s having never had a love of their life, never, and never known what it is to be loved by a man. Taking showers together, washing each other's hair, laughing in the morning for no reason, just waking up in the morning happy and just talking softly while the sun is rising, and you're just whispering and talking softly and laughing. Just sharing and sharing and sharing everything. A woman who is looking for a bank account will never experience that because it doesn't come with it. So what's beautiful, though, is that your karma can be completely different, where your karma is to be with a man with money who actually adores you and you adore them. That can happen. You can certainly work on manifesting it. But I feel as if men have been given the raw end of a stick in actually feeling as if their value is what they have in the account. And because of that, that's why you got a lot of runners. That's one of the reasons why twin flame males, more often than women, usually, or who present masculine, run. The other reason is sexual trauma. They're ashamed of what happened to them. And they can never articulate it to you. They have desires based on their trauma, and they have never really fixed themselves because they've never gone into massive, deep diving into, for example, talk therapy, hypnotherapy, and going back and forth for, sometimes it takes 10 years. It does. Okay? And so when you, as a feminine twin, present yourself in front of them, even in your silence, you're like a Moldavite crystal. In your silence, asking nothing from your twin, nothing, nothing. You're demanding from them to be the best version of themselves, and they can't, and they know they can't give that to you. Not because they can't, but because they don't know how to, and some of them don't want to. You know, some pigs like to fucking roll in shit. For real. Just saying. I might not be diplomatic, but I think you got the picture. But there are men who are so wounded. They're so wounded that they can't. They know in their minds, oh, she can do way better than me. In fact, you know what? I better let her go. Some men love you that much that they'll let you go to be with someone else because they figure you're better off with someone else. And you know what? I know of a man who did that. Instead of fixing himself, because he was an alcoholic, he let her go to another man, thinking that man will take care of her in ways I never could. Guess what? It didn't work out. And now it's too late. Yeah, there's such a thing as portals close. Portals open. Isn't that sad? And he thought that by stepping back and letting this other man take over this woman's heart, that she would be in the best of care. And that's not what happened at all. Does that make sense? So you got to understand that men, he would say he was tired of being a nobody. Yup, you are 100% correct. My sweethearts, I wish I wasn't fucking correct. He kept saying he didn't deserve my love. I know some who are depressed over it. I know men who actually they didn't survive themselves, if you get my drift. I just can't get past the feeling that he and I are somehow the same person. I've never experienced is right now a time of reunion universally. No, it's not a time of reunion. I'm sorry. Please, the fairy tales must stop, okay? It is not a time of reunion universally. Why is that? Why am I saying that? Why do you think I'm being a Debbie Downer? No, I'm not. It's common sense. Let's use some common sense. Let me explain. Some of you have only been on this journey for a year, maybe 2. And you're on your first or second, separation. And some of you might go into another separation that lasts a weekend, maybe a week, maybe a month, and then another separation. Some of you have been on this, and some of you might go into another separation that lasts a weekend, maybe a week, maybe a month, and then another separation. Some of you have been on this game for like 10, 15 years, and you're about to fucking reach the goal of reunion. You damn A right, you are. And some of you are not. So whoever's saying, oh yeah, kumbaya, you're over it. It's not a fucking high school reunion, okay? That's not how it works. Every human being on this planet has a different soul contract. With themselves, with their twin. It has nothing to do with us. Do you understand? And I have so many videos where I break it down for you, so that you understand what I mean by the 144,000, what I mean by twin flames in separation, what happens when twin flame dies. And I have lives on YouTubes that go for, you could actually, for 3 months, listen to the content, and it'll be new information that you haven't probably heard yet that's going to help you understand your journey. Some of it, you may not connect with, and that's fine, but some of it will help you, because this idea that it's universal, no. No. And that's the dangerous, toxic shit. Because see, if it doesn't happen to you, now what? You're going to think you're a loser. You're going to think, oh my God, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be in union in this incarnation. No, it could be that you're not supposed to be in union for the next 2 years because you're so obsessed with your twin, which is normal. You are not handling your business of healing yourself and getting into your power. Hence, the separation is going to last 2 years. Meanwhile, your twin's going to do X, Y, and Z while you do X, Y, and Z on your end. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, you'll bump into each other. And boom, it starts all over again. Does that make sense? That's what you need to understand. It's definitely sad to watch. And portals close. Yes, portals close. That's right. Portals open and portals close. Do you understand what that means? Portals are timelines that open for you to have the sacred meeting with your twin. And then if that is fucked up by, self-importance, egoic fears, and depression or whatever, then if it really doesn't work and one of you decides, oh, fuck you, I'm going to block you, that's it. And there's a lot of content creators saying, yeah, block your twin. By the way, some of these content creators, I actually know them. Many, you'd be surprised. It's a small world, our spiritual community, and many of us know each other or know of each other. And I can tell you that many of them have never even been with their twin for more than 2 weeks. And yet, here they are, telling you what to do. So when I tell you to do something, let me just say this. I've had clients all over the world where I've given them guidance. And I gave my own guidance. And I ended up in final union with my twin. And I lived with my twin for 5 years. So it's not like, oh, we were just dating. No, I fucking lived. Paid bills together, ran up hills together, skied together, made love, everything. Read incredible esoteric books together. In other words, I was in union. And so when I tell you don't block your twin, I'm not kidding. When I tell you that portals open and portals close were what should have been an easy portal, an easy situation where you could get back in together. And suddenly there's no money, or suddenly the plane tickets are like fucking $1,500. You're like, what the fuck? One direction, like one way, or something else happens. Like in my case, my mother was dying. And I had brought her to there was no room. There was no room. I had to take care of her. My space, my triage was to take care of my dying mother. That's what I mean by portals open, portals close. That was a portal. We separated, and boom, there came my mother, sick as hell, dying. So even if I did, he wanted to be back in union, so did I, but it was too late. The portals had closed. Does that make sense? And you might say, oh, wow, no, not in a 1-bedroom. You can't. There was no room. No room. None. And in a 1-bedroom, you can't. There was no room. No room. None. And when she passed, then it was time. And literally, it was a while. It took another, 9 months, where then we came back into union. And something else happened. I'm not going to go into every detail, but trust me, I would look at this guy going, what the fuck? Why are you doing this, man? Like, we want to be together. And the universe was like, no, not yet. The portals had closed. So there were still some things that needed to happen for him and for me in separation. Is it sad? You fucking A, it's sad. But do I resent it and do I understand? Do I resent it? No. Do I understand the wisdom? Yes, I actually do. And even though I hate to say it, they were correct. The light beings were correct. They were correct. Is it easy? Is it easy to swallow that pill? Fuck no. But I have to. Because there's a part of me that's having the human experience. And there's a part of me having a transcendental experience going, I'm planting seeds for my next incarnation with my twin. And if that's the price, I pay it gladly and with a smile and with gratitude in my heart. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So that's what portals are, okay? There are many types of portals, and portals are also how souls would come down. I'll give you an example. I did an Akashic reading for a client, which It blew my mind. This was like years ago. And she was one of the founders of Atlantis. She was a high crystalline being with actually very dark hair and this beautiful, like creamy, tan skin, dressed all in white that had that prismatic, and I saw her going through a portal. 2 months later, I did a hypnotherapy session with a client, a transgender client, going through the transition from male to feminine. And she wanted to experience a human experience and she wanted to experience a human experience and went through a portal. She never knew I had done the Akashic reading ever, and that I'd seen a portal for this particular client. She went through a portal to go out of the blue planet she was on to come into human incarnation. She didn't fall. She chose to come. You see? And it blew my mind. And so the way the universe shows us confirmations on certain things that we get, like, for me, my Akashic readings, is that the universe will actually show me by saying, you see, it's not you in the way you see it. It's how it's done. We have portals, which makes sense, makes absolute sense, right? For example, Stonehenge is a type of a portal, right? Like a Stargate. So portals are interesting. The portals of timelines, right? There's portals of Stargates, which you could say that my client going through the blue planet and coming to planet Earth, I mean, she went through a portal. And I've seen subsequently other beings. When me and my twin fell, I fell first. And there was no fucking portal. I fell. It was the weirdest thing. And I got that download back in 2018. I thought it was just a one-off for me and my twin. I didn't realize that is actually the stories of how we fell into 3D, right? A lot of people think, oh, Atlantis fell and then we fell into 3D. No, a lot of us weren't in Atlantis at all. In fact, we fell before Atlantis was created, number one. Number two, some of us had the final fall in Atlantis, meaning from 5D, 6D to 3D, for example. But there were pockets of places, which I've mentioned in other lives, where, for example, Tibet was still in 5D. So even though Atlantis, you realize that, right? The Atlantic Ocean from tip to tip, right? From Europe into the Americas, you realize that, right? That would have been Atlantis. It was one massive landmass from what I've seen. And I've been studying Atlantis since I was about 17. So it collapsed. I had a friend who was a diver in Bimini, right? In the Bahamas. And he told me of going out and diving and seeing structures, columns, Roman-like columns, whatever you want to call them. And also finding a source of water that had it was fresh water that had properties that was very healing. That was bubbling from the bottom of the ocean floor up to the top. And they had collected this water, and there was something about it that was healing. But he told me that he was a captain, a sea captain, trained and so forth in longitude, latitude, and this, that, and the other. He had mapped it out perfectly. They went a couple times, and the next time they went, the third time or fourth time, it was fucking gone. It was like it had never been there. Portals. So portals open and close. It's like a pulsing beating heart, opens and closes, right? And it's very interesting, actually. So do you understand? So I use the word portals in multiple ways. Do you get that? And in the case of a twin in separation, yeah, once a person, let's say they get on a plane, that's it. You're like, fuck you, and we're done. And they get on a plane. Good luck on that decision, because it could be a while before you see them again. That's why I'm such an advocate for twin flames to stay, as long as there's no abuse, to stay together for as long as they fucking possibly, because when it's done, the universe will rip you from each other's arms and you will be in shock going, what the fuck happened? It'll be a loss of a job. It'll be someone dying and they have to get on a plane and they have to go to Peru, to Spain, because his mommy died in Mexico. Or I had a client whose twin, they were gay, his twin's mother had died, and they had an estate in the Philippines, and he was stuck in the Philippines for almost 2 years because of the estate, because of a poorly constructed will, because if he left, the other family members would be like pariahs. It was a shit show. And the twin here in America did not have the money, the wherewithal, the job, the ability to move and to either move with him or to, most importantly, come and visit. Do you know why? Because no one knew he was gay in the Philippines. The whole family, this guy's whole family did not. So he didn't even want his lover to come because he didn't want to be exposed. He didn't feel safe. Do you understand? When portals open and close, it's like when they think you're not a match, when the universe feels like you are done now, they will set up situations that make it impossible to come back to your beloved. I've seen it again and again, and it's shocking. So when people say to me, well, I think I should just move out. Why? Is he abusing you? No. We're just not getting, he's not understanding me. I understand that. What else are you still, making love, having fun? Well, no, but I mean, yes, but I just don't know. It doesn't feel like it did before. Yeah, that's bullshit. You don't leave for that. That's called being an adult. Figure it out. Go into a hypnotherapy. They do first, and you do your hypnotherapy session. Find out what the blocks are, because what happens with all twins trigger the fuck out of each other. That is a known fact. There's no one, the content creators who are absolutely toxic and telling you that it's kumbaya aren't talking about twin flames. They're talking about twin rays. And twin rays is absolute perfection. It is absolute perfection. I have videos on that. You can look it up on and I did a whole live on twin flames and twin rays. I'm not going to do it tonight. It's there on my YouTube. You'll see it. So that's what you guys need to understand. So, like, for example, the book I wrote called Recall, which is, you'll see it if you go on my profile, you'll see all kinds of snippets. It's very erotic, very intense, very raw, and I could only do what was safe, or else, because TikTok banned the book. But in the book, it's about my twin flame journey. It's about one of the incarnations me and my twin in this incarnation had in 6,000 years ago. I'm not kidding. And it's a creative nonfiction, so I had to do this, that, and the other. But the essence of that ancient past life is verbatim. And what I found is that the habit of the masculine not being available, emotionally available, was because of the very survival of the masculine. You can't be tender and making little heart-shaped Valentine cards if you're a fucking warrior. I mean, I doubt Alexander the Great was doing that, for example. Writing little Valentine notes to his Persian queen, for example. I doubt it. Okay, no one could do that. Probably the closest thing we've ever seen in the ancient world of a family that actually looked like they loved each other was Akhenaten and his wife Nefertiti and their daughters, which is still astonishing the Egyptologists on how incredibly loving they look. On hieroglyphs, imagine, on fucking walls, man. And yet you can feel emotions, you can feel affection in that family, that royal family. On hieroglyphs, imagine, on fucking walls, man. And yet you can feel emotions, you can feel affection in that family, that royal family. But for the most part, I would say that it wasn't. So that habit of not being available to always incarnate into the masculine. I've been a masculine. I was an asshole in many of my incarnations as a masculine. And I was really hardcore on my women because I didn't have the time to cater to them. I was a leader, a warrior. I just wanted to have babies, sex, and leave me the fuck alone. That was it. I'm not kidding. As a man. So, and women had to survive in different ways. They banned it. Yeah, they banned it. So, does that make sense? I can't imagine myself with anyone else, but he jumped into another relationship immediately. Yeah, because he is afraid. He wanted something that would make him feel secure. Also, don't forget, and I know you know this, but I'm going to remind you. When people are raised in traumatic family situations, right? Mom, dad are fucking toxic as fuck. They're going to run to a relationship that is going to make them feel comfortable And it's going to be very familiar to them if it's a toxic relationship that's not a match. Does that make sense? So the irony of ironies is you are I'm trying to find the word for you on this one. Hang on. You are a conduit to their self-realization, of self-exploration of their shadows to heal it. You have activated that understanding in them, but they might not be able to articulate it to you, much less themselves, number one. Number two, when you have sex in your twin flame, you are activating the calcifications in their root chakra, sacral chakra, and Herat chakra, which then bings into their solar plexus, explodes into their heart chakra, and at that point, oh fuck, because they're afraid. Because you could actually hurt them, right? You could hurt them. Sometimes twins leave because they'd rather leave first. They'd rather be the one that just leaves first. Because at that point, it's under... But you know what's funny? Is that unless they're smoking pot like it's a job, unless they're drinking like, on clockwork, if they're sober for the most part, what you're feeling for them, they're feeling for you. When you see numbers connected to them, they're probably thinking about you at that time. And it has nothing to do with how you look. It doesn't matter if you're not the prettiest in the room. You're the one. And that is also a mindfuck because they can't figure it out. Like, I don't understand. She's not the prettiest girl I've ever been with. Fuck, I've been with beautiful women. Why can't I get her out of my... I don't want to fuck... That is a mindfuck for a masculine. I've been with beautiful women. Why can't I get her out of my... I don't want to fuck... That is a mindfuck for a masculine. Does that make sense? So you got to kind of understand there are a lot of moving parts to the runner. And, if the guy is also... And there are a lot of men out there who present alpha male and who are bisexual. And if they're not clear on their sexuality, that's another one. That's another problem. All right? So there's a lot. Any questions or comments? Any questions that is going to help the collective? I'd love to hear any of your questions. So going back to recall, for example, when you read recall, and I started, this is why I'm really promoting the fuck out of it finally, because I don't care. But what I will say is that, okay, so they've just banned me for a reason. So what is that? Okay, so they've just banned me for a reason. So whatever. The reason why that was banned, okay, was because the content is highly volatile, and somebody flagged it. And they flagged it for whatever reason, but they didn't want me to sell on TikTok, or else it would have been fine. But that was a year ago. But I decided, after speaking to people who have read it since that happened, and many of them have come to me, not all, but many have said, I'm getting actually spontaneous past life recollection. And I think some of them is with my twin. Or past life recollection of past traumas that I didn't even remember, but they're connected to my body, or they're connected to a depression, they're connected to a fear. And so that's why I'm promoting it a lot, because I want people to read it. Why? Believe me, I'm not making that money. You're not paying my rent. Let me put it that way. But that's not the point. That's why I've made it $11.11. I mean, come on, it's a joke. But it activates something in people because of the way it was formatted. And that's what I know. And if you read it, if you have the discipline to read it from the time you start to time, hopefully you'll enjoy the ride. But some people are just so fucking distracted. It's crazy. But if you read it every night, let's say you read you commit to 3 pages a night, and you go back and forth into time, I don't know what it is, but it does something. And I keep saying that, and I'm just getting too many people telling me that it helped them remember their own past lives. So I've read all kinds of books on reincarnation. One of my favorite movies, it was very dark, don't get me wrong, but it was called The Reincarnation of Peter Proud. Audrey Rose was another one on about reincarnation. A lot of dark books. Honestly, they're kind of dark, but that was the only way they could sell their stories in the 70s. And but I was fascinated by reincarnation, and I remembered picking my parents, and I remembered so much. And then I started just remembering past lives, and I was whatever you're fascinated with is because you were there. So, for example, at 17, the book I read again and again, and that's a massive book, okay? It's called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly, written in the 1800s, 1870s. It's still the best book on Atlantis ever read, ever written and researched. And you want to get the illustrated copy because he's got all these diagrams, all these unfucking real. The book was amazing. And then there was the book written by a man. I forgot it was a man. I thought it was Ruth Montgomery, but it's called The Children of Mu, Lemuria. That was an amazing book. That was one of my favorite books. So what I'm trying to say to you is, when you're interested in something, right? I think you already know this. You don't need me to tell you, but you know, right? That if you're fascinated by Egypt, you were there. Fascinated by Greece, you were there. And well, I'm fascinated by all of them. Yes, we've had a lot of incarnations. A lot. You know? We are immortal and have had countless past lives. This one is the best, so enjoy. Exactly. Where can we get it? Oh, the book? It's you go on my profile on my Linktree, you'll see it right there. That's where you get it. It'll link you to, it'll take you directly to buy it, and it's free. If you've got, Prime, it's free shipping if you've got Prime. So, and it's a good sized book actually. I gotta tell you. But you'll see the third eye. You'll see a woman with a beautiful eye, just one eye, and you'll see a couple embrace, they're sleeping in each other's arms. But when I wrote Recall, it kept me up at night. And I remember Stephen King saying, if the book won't keep you up at night, it won't keep your readers up at night. And I was like, I think I got this. I think I'm moving into it. And and I've been writing erotica since forever. And I've been published in Japan and other places, like in the US, obviously. I mean, I didn't think I needed to mention that, in the UK. And with my erotic work, And so I'm very comfortable, and I've read some of the best erotica ever written. Inez Nin, some of Henry Miller's stuff was pretty hot. The Olympia Reader had a lot of short stories that were erotica that were banned. They were constantly sending them to jail for in the 50s in Paris for writing, for publishing a lot of short stories that were erotica that were banned. They were constantly sending them to jail for in the 50s in Paris for writing, for publishing erotica. So erotica for me was really important because I was looking for the answers to why sex with one person can be good, and why sex with a twin can be mind-blowing, and why that is. And there was a part of me that remembered some of my incarnation in India, in the Kama Sutra, I'm going to call them Kama Sutra temples, for the lack of a better word. And that's where we learned how to understand the divine, for the lack of a better word. And that's where we learned how to understand the divine union between a masculine and a feminine, and the almost spiritual aspect to that connection, sexual connection. And that cannot be enjoyed with your basic dude that you met on the streets. It is a soul connection of a high-level soulmate or a twin. And that's why many of you will say, I can't be with anyone else. Well, no shit. After you've been on the pinnacles of Mount Olympus, why would you want anyone else? Right? Why would you? So I totally and you're not alone. This is something that's repeated with every client. I wish I fucking want to be with someone else, and they can't. Now, that's repeated with every client. I wish I fucking want to be with someone else, and they can't. Now, every blue moon, which I have a few of those clients where they are happily married to their high-level soulmate, and that keeps them tethered to a good life, and they can't be with their twin. But those of you who have been with your twin, and you unfortunately you don't have a high-level soulmate in your life, I hate to say, but it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while. Repeating numbers are annoying when the person in question is already committed. The repeating numbers are confirmations that you're not crazy. Does that make sense? That's why you're seeing the repeating numbers. It's not to annoy you. It's to say you're not crazy. And by the way, if they're paying attention, they're seeing it too. If they know the numbers. The problem with twins is one will be 4, 5D and the other one will be 3D. My twin was 4D. So I didn't have as many problems, believe it or not. His was arrogance, well, stubbornness, I would say more. Not arrogance, stubbornness, and me too. We were both stubborn. And that was a problem. We didn't want to, and our egos harmed us, and we wasted years because of fear of not being good enough. That was my issue, because he definitely thought he was good enough. And then afterwards it was stubbornness. It was just absolute fucking bullshit. And but in the end, we were both ground to dust. And but in the end, we were both ground to dust, and we were able to come to a high level, the final high level union before I meet him on the other side. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful connection, I think. We made it, basically. We fucking graduated. I'm very, very happy about that. Because some people won't. And that's the sad part. Some people, I had a client who was in a twin flame union, and the woman, her lover decided, both women, and one of them decided to play black witchcraft. I'm not joking when I say for fucking going on the dark side. That's the thing about twins, is that twins together, there's nothing more powerful. This is another reason why the 1% and the collective, the powers that be, the assholes out here, don't want you to win. Okay? Because twins, when they're together, well, think of Yeshua and Mary Magdalena. Think of Radha and Krishna. Think of Isis Osiris. Buddha and his consort, he actually was married. Just so you know. Many people don't. So when twins are together, they're incomparable. Dangerously so. In a good way. Okay? So this twin decided that she would go into black magic. And I'm talking about blood, red. I'm going to call it red magic so you get what I'm saying. Okay? Black and red magic. You get what I'm saying? Okay. And she was doing some weird shit, and her twin came to me. We did a final reading, and she said, I can't be. I said, no, you can't be with her. Not in this incarnation. You either going to have to join her in the dark side, or you got to keep going to the ascension, and eventually she'll rubber band to you, but she needs to do some cycles here, apparently. But yeah, game over. You're not going to be in union. I'm sorry. When I met my twin flame, there was discord. The union was always off. I had to end the relationship. When there was discord. Why? There shouldn't be discord. Always discord is a red flag that it could be something else. I'm being honest with you. It could be something else. It could be it could be a twin, but usually that's not how it works. I'm going to be very honest. When twins meet, there is no discord. It's actually a twin. But usually that's not how it works. I'm going to be very honest. When twins meet, there is no discord. It's actually it's like there. You want to talk? Remember, I started this whole live with perfection. When twins meet, there is a vibration, a pull, a recognition. It's amazing. And there is a symbiotic kumbaya type of, and we're walking in stride. Walking as one, that kind of thing. And then it gets ugly later on. When me and my twin met the first time, we had 2 weeks of bliss. I mean, we were totally not having sex. It wasn't about that at all. But the kiss sealed the bond. It created the bond that would take years for us to come back together, which was by design. I certainly didn't really miss him. I remember he said, I missed you seriously for 2 years, so that's serious. But me, no. Because his job was to give me a mala, a mantra, and vegetarianism. That was it. And to teach me all these things and to add to what I already knew. And then I was launched into the world. at 18. I had a soul contract with myself and other people I was to meet. And then when it was all done, then we came into union. So, to be honest, the discord to me sounds shaky. And so it could be a high level soulmate where there's unresolved karmic situations going on. You may want to, look into that as well. I'm not saying I'm correct, but you should make sure. Immediate recognition and feeling of we're connected. Yeah, no, but this immediate recognition is not exclusive to twin flames. I'm sorry. I've met women who had immediate recognition. My high level soulmate, immediate recognition. That's called a soul tribe member. Immediate recognition is not exclusive to a twin. It's do you understand what I'm saying? Whereas, like I said, I have 3 friends that I met, immediately recognized. One of my friends, who's my Doc Holiday, was born the day my mother was born. And it was immediate recognition. I'm certainly never going to be her lover. She's a twin ray. I mean, obviously, it's not my thing. We're friends. We're soul sisters. And so it was immediate, like we had started conversation from thousands of years, maybe hundreds, thousands of years ago. I don't know. Does that make sense? So this thing of, oh my God, I've never felt that way before. No, I don't know. Does that make sense? So this thing of, oh my God, I've never felt that way before. No, and I've gone into depth over that. When it's the opposite sex or same gender, and there's a sexual, I don't know why we always sexualize shit. But in some cases, that is not the answer. If you go back to some of my videos, you'll see that I talk about a man who I met who, immediate recognition, but guess what? It was karmic. Immediate recognition, but guess what? It was karmic. He was not a karmic. I hate that fucking term because it's a bullshit term. We all have karma, so we're all karmics, technically, all of us. But what I meant to say when I said karmic is that we had really met to clear unresolved trauma from many of suicides. And we had to, it was interesting because the sexual chemistry was off the charts. Thank God I never went for the okie doke, thank God. Because that was exactly what I was not supposed to do, is take him as a lover. I was supposed to look at it, go to hypnotherapy, go, oh shit, let it go, release it. And I had broken a cycle that had gone on for, it looked like 1,000 years. Okay? Does that make sense? So you got to kind of make sure, you know what I mean? And I don't know how old you are. It's none of my business. But if you're young and this is your first one, then, I had a Kundalini awakening when we met and activated when intimate. Is that signs? Okay. The word Kundalini is used so often that it doesn't make sense to me. Now, would you have a Kundalini awakening with a twin? Yes, but not always in that way. How do I put this without being rude? A massive orgasm is not a Kundalini awakening. I'm sorry. I don't want to be rude, but it feels like it is. Because what's happening is there's a calcification that is being ripped out of you. You're getting spoon-fed Kundalini activations throughout your incarnation. Because if you had a full-on Kundalini activation, many people go mad. Look it up, and please don't Google that shit because these people don't know what the fuck they're data processors. Get good books. There's a book on Kundalini by Radha. Her name is Radha. She's gone now, but she studied. She was in India, and that would be a good book to study. But Kundalini, in itself, is spoon-fed to us, or else many of us would go out of our fucking minds. However, the activation of the first, say, tier, yes, but then you said, see, what I'm going to say to you is this. You're talking about a discord, and that should not have happened until later. So I guess I don't know your whole story, and you can't tell me a couple sentences, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I felt like a download saying I was activated. I don't know what it was. I understand. I totally get it. I did, lol. Well, I know. I figured that. And the problem is that people connote the big O, right, with a Kundalini awakening. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I know that that first incredible rupture, right? It's an explosion in the root chakra, is a massive healing activation that there's a lot of calcification there that's being just drained. It's thank God it's exploding. And for a male twin, it could actually be the very thing that makes them run, believe it or not, because it's that good. Women too. Women will run. They'll go, oh fuck, no, I can't be that into it. And then you get obsessed with the big O, obsessed, and then words are put. I because I'm hearing Kundalini everywhere, like it's I don't know, it's a new catchword, you know, and I know they're full of no offense, okay, I'm not saying that's your story, but a lot of people are full of shit because usually when you have a Kundalini awakening and you're spoon fed over time to there is a transcendental awakening that takes over. Your old personality is no longer present. You get activated in ways that shocks you. You take a lot of shit from people, and it's not because you're weak. It's because you become more and more transcendental, and or you come into your full role and your full power, and you don't give a fuck who you please and who you don't please. And you have a confidence because you know you're on a mission that's greater than your own ego and your need to be accepted by people. It's a strength, a Kundalini awakening. It makes you transcendental. It makes you realize that you're planting seeds of things you will never see to harvest. You're doing it for other people. A Kundalini awakening is a selfless consciousness. And many people who say they've had a Kundalini awakening I'm sorry, assholes. So when somebody says that, in fact, there was a woman who I knew who told me, oh, I was born with my Kundalini awakened. And no, she was an asshole. No offense, I'm sorry. She was an asshole. And so people use that term very loosely. Be careful with that. Study the hell out of it. Understand exactly what it means, you know, and why the old sages were very careful in teaching people some of the things to do to activate its awakening. You know, it's not a walk in the park. However, it is spoon-fed to you, no doubt. And there are many things that you can do tantrically as well to activate it, but there's also breathing techniques and consciousness shifts. And yeah, when you're on this journey, I have to be honest with you, you get trampled by massive challenges that really rip you to pieces. And eventually you come out like a diamond. You know, you come out like harder but shiny and stronger than you've ever been before. And you realize, and you do realize consciously that this incarnation is temporary. There are veils that you can part through your intention. And there could even be levels of frustration, to be honest with you, because you're like, God, I fucking know better. I know I can part the veils and step into other realms and dimensions, and I'm still in this fucking room. One of the books I always mention in these lives, because it's one of my fucking, it's called Somewhere in Time by Richard Matheson. And it talks about portals, and it talks about raising your consciousness to go into other realms, to time travel. It's a book about time traveling, but it's not like H.G. Wells, or Jules Verne, the time machine type of thing. It's way, way more intelligent and interesting because it's about how to control the mind to travel into other realms and to become a frequency match to that realm. It's fascinating. It's actually a fascinating book. And again, that was another book I read like 20 times. I love that book. Let me see. Oh, thank you. I didn't even see the gifts. I was looking up. Shit. I hope I see it. I believe it. I don't know the words to talk about this. No, I understand, my love. Thank you, Heather. That's gorgeous. I love origamis. I understand that, but I'm just trying to give it to you in perspective so that when you do have a kundalini that you perspective, so that when you do have a kundalini that blows your mind, you'll know. What happens when the twin flames get together sexually, there's no doubt that the root chakra is activated. No fucking doubt. Now, one of the exercises that I've talked with clients about is to hold the big O and to suck it up. I'm not kidding, like to bring it up to your navel, to the Herat chakra, and try to hit your solar plexus. And if you're very, very good, you would be able to hit that energy like a straw going into your heart chakra. That would be like solar plexus heart. But and men do that too. But they do it for spiritual reasons. And it's an incredible practice, but it also gives you enlightenment. Does that make sense? It enlightens you. It's an activation. Activating this very dense little body that we have, right? That's very heavy in three-dimensional structure, you know? And you have to understand that the fact that you're even curious about this, the fact that you're even listening to this, that you even want to know more about this is a massive fucking, win. Because you have to understand that you are actually hacking out of your 3D brain into the realms of the possible, of infinite realms, through and out of your 3D brain, which I talk about all the time. And it's a massive, holy fuck, a win. Because if you and you see how casually we're having this conversation? It's fucking, try to put this conversation in front of any cafe in the world with your average person, and they would look at us like we're out of our fucking minds. And then you and I are kicking rocks, having a nice talk, casually talking about very esoteric concepts and understanding each other. While other people right now with the same brain mass as you, if they were to, weigh my brain, your brain. I mean, Einstein proved that it has nothing to do with brain size, right? When they actually took his brain and realized, holy fuck, how was this man a genius, right? Thinking massive brain is going to make you more intelligent. Clearly that's not true. It's consciousness. So my point is that you're actually hacking out of your 3D brain. And that you should actually congratulate yourself, not with too much egoic pump, not to feel superior to the average man or woman, but to say, holy fuck, I'm doing great. I want to do more. I want to help the sleeping masses, as many as man or woman, but to say, holy fuck, I'm doing great. I want to do more. I want to help the sleeping masses, as many as I can. And then it will be my turn to drop my body. And I will no longer be a frequency match to this planet. I love this planet, by the way, when I say that, just so you know. But eventually this planet will be in 560 and you'll be able to come back, as will I. Yes, continued big O's can cause you to vibrate into higher dimensions. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a tantric technique. Tantra was created by yogis, and it was yoga for lovers. It was yoga for young. That's what it was. And so, people need to learn these concepts. Everyone's like, oh, Kama Sutra, titter, ha. And instead of fucking looking at, like, just look at yoga and his, Buddha and his consort, that particular position. Okay, so the man's sitting cross-legged. The woman is got her legs wrapped around his waist, sitting on top of his thighs, right? Maybe he's entered her. And they are going and they're eye-gazing, third eye kissing, pranayama, going back and forth, rocking, and really much in their they're blissing out. They're actually going into a love bubble that can actually feel as if you're kissing the lips of God. And that's something that when you realize that slow sex is like slow cooking, it's really that's the kind of intimacy that if you allow to have with your twin is unmatched. No one will ever be able to match that because, people aren't comfortable to that level of comfort. You know what I mean? And that's why it's a twin also, because you're able to. Does that make sense? Hey, Jessica. Yeah, so, any other questions or comments? Any questions are going to... Thank you for the roses, Heather. That's very sweet. Healer's path, sorry. So if you, so I'm going to wrap it up though, but I will upload. Your heart must be wide open to achieve. Yes, and when you're able to have these connections with a high level soulmate or twin, these exercises are important because unfortunately, and I'm going to be very blunt with you again, unfortunately, we women outlive our men. And this will actually, you will carry the bounty of these experiences for the rest of your lives because most of you want shit. I mean, some of you are young women and you're telling me at young ages, I can't be with anyone else. I'm like, fuck, man. I mean, you're too young for this. You know what I mean? You got to continue your life, you know? But there will be a time when either you will come into union with your twin and it will be a good 10-20 year ride, hopefully more, or you'll be in a high level soulmate connection and when you're, and people die and maybe your twin will live, you know, a nice amount of years and your high level soulmate might pass away or maybe divorce you. Maybe they met their twin and it's time. And you are now, you've done so much inner work and your twin's been haunted by you, just as you've been haunted by them, and finally the union comes to pass. The main thing is that if you do, because I've had clients say, well, if I do this, will my twin come back? I'm like, you're not. If you do this for your twin, you've missed the point. You've got to do it for yourself. And in doing it for yourself, you're actually feeding your twin remotely. Yes, that level of intimacy is otherworldly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you do mentoring? Yes, I do. Level of intimacy is otherworldly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you do mentoring? Yes, I do. I do what I would call spiritual coaching with tarot reading because I'll throw cards to see what's the energy, what's going on with this twin, for example. I do Akashic readings. I do hypnotherapy. So, but mentoring, absolutely. I mean, that's what I do anyway because I give people homework. All my clients get homework. They get links to movies, this, that, and the other, books to read. I mean, because I can't just cut you loose and go, here we go. Like I just did a reading for a young girl and she's very young and she's never been with anyone, if you get my drift. And I saw, we did a general reading and I went, there's a man coming. There's a man coming. And I did it again. It's a high level soulmate. At the minimum, I couldn't tell if it was a twin, not yet, because they're not in the picture. But I definitely high level soulmate. At the minimum, probably a twin, to be honest. And it's happening next year. And so I gave her all the information she needs to be prepared. You know, things about masculines, like, you know, like lives I've talked about. What is the sacred masculine? What is the toxic masculine? Shit like that. To get her up to understand, to not tolerate certain things, but to be gentle. But what I did see was that this man is coming to her, for example, and it's almost like her hand. They were showing me his brow. He's a big, powerful man, and she's like a petite little Kuan Yin energy, really cool. And it was almost like she was putting her hand, her small hand on his forehead, and his head was hot, and her hand felt like so cool and so good. He just felt so good by her gentle just that. And it's probably a twin flame, to be honest with you, but I didn't want to fucking freak her out anyway because she's innocent. But so I also mentor people for careers and help them with their heart-centered business because the people that are attracted to me are usually people who want to also be healers and they want to walk this path honestly. And so that's, but I also work with people who want to also be healers and they want to walk this path honestly. And so that's, but I also work with people who actually, nurses and doctors and therapists and so on and so forth. And so it really depends. But a lot of people come to me for different things. I've even had people come for crypto, believe it or not. Let me see. Mentoring to teach. Yes. I do teach. The divine feminine usually outlives the masculine. Typically, are you going to put this one on YouTube? I need to go back and listen. I missed most of it. Yeah, I'll try. You know, I'll make sure. Hopefully, there's no skips. But my lives with TikTok skip. It'll like echo my sentence, And we've been on this thing. So if I put it up, it's going to be put up as is. I'm not going to edit it because I can't. Yeah, you were asking, does the divine feminine outlive the divine masculine? Yes, because typically typically, that's not for everyone. Some of you guys are the same age as each other, right? But my high level soulmate died. He died at 58. So I outlived him, didn't I? You have to understand, the world is so tough for some of you guys who are divine masculines, wounded and broken masculines, but there's a divinity in you. And the world is really kicking the masculine's ass. It's not to say it's not kicking women's asses, but for some reason, we tend to have 3 to 4 girlfriends. We can talk about the most intensely intimate, painful shit. And very few of you males have that. My son has that with men who are twice his age because, let me put it that he's trained them onto the kind of relationship he wants with men, which is, we're going to talk about esoteric shit. If you're ever depressed and you want to, off yourself, call me. And he's to talk people off the ledge. So his male friends know he's the guy to call if the shit gets heavy. And so they can be emotionally vulnerable to my son and he won't shame them. Very few men have those kinds of male friends. Okay? And it's very important for many of you to start training other men to realize that you need to be like my brother. Like, we need to talk real shit, not football and Sunday night football and OnlyFans bimbos and just bullshit, cars and engines and you might think I'm full of shit. I've been around a lot of men for a long time, and that's the conversations I've heard. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want it to offend. A lot of you guys are divine masculines, and a lot of you don't really have those, you probably don't have a lot of male friends. Or maybe they're from when you went to high school, and you just have them because they're there. My twin stopped. He had friends he knew since he was 14, and it was nothing. It was nothing for him. In other words, when the chips were down, they would be there for him but in terms of emotionally available, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And men need that, or else they hurt themselves. Does that make sense? Are you going to... Okay, I'm a male. Good. I'm similar to your son in perspective. I understand. And a lot of the newer generation males, like 30 and under, or 35 and under, are more like that. But to be honest with you, my twin was born in the 40s. None of his male friends were like that. None. I mean, I watched it, and my father, same thing. My brother, I don't know, probably about the same. Who else? One of his very good friends, my son's friend, he's twice my son's age, and he adores my son because he's a masculine, but he can be completely vulnerable. He can cry, and my son will never, ever, oh, dude, you're just crying now? Yeah, none of that shit's happening. So maybe you're taking it for granted that you are who you are, but don't. Don't do that, because you're what I call a unicorn. So that means that if you can be vulnerable with a male friend or two, and you're their Doc Holiday, and they are yours, then that means you're going to be an amazing partner for your twin or the right woman. You're going to be an amazing partner because you're not afraid to share your feelings. And that's really one of the main things that I see. You're 73. That's cool. Then you're rare. And I know you're rare. I mean, come on. Are you going to tell me there are 5 of you that are... Because my twin was 76 when he passed, and he was vulnerable to me, but I was his woman. I was his twin. But he could not be vulnerable to other men to that level of consciousness. I'm sorry. It just wasn't, they were all badasses and tough guys and playing who was the tougher one. So for me, when I look at relationships with the masculine, and I look at men who are afraid to speak their truth, one of the things that happens when men go through the dark night of the soul, and the reason why most of them, many who go through this, many will survive, but many who don't survive, the twins that don't survive for the most part, what I saw last year in 2023, were men. So I don't know how you were raised, but or you raised yourself, like my husband raised himself. he was emotional, but he didn't have friends he could be really emotional with. So he was emotional with me. He was emotional with, does that make sense? I mean, it must make sense, because if everyone was like you, my friend, women and men would be having no issues and there would be no gender wars. So clearly some shit's happening. And men are not stepping up, and a lot of women just want the money. It's a shit show right now. So my job in this incarnation, one of my many jobs, is to work with men and women to make sure that they're fair. In this incarnation, one of my many jobs is to work with men and women to make sure that they're fair about their connection with each other, and then they give each other a chance. And then they have to understand that, like, I remember my twin giving me an article and saying, and it was an article about a man talking about man cave and saying, here, let me give you the premise. When men go through massive pain, depression, they don't want to fucking talk. Now, I'd seen that with my dad, my brother. When things got really bad, they went MIA. They would not talk. Same with my husband, actually, believe it or not. Things got really bad, they went MIA. They would not talk. Same with my husband, actually, believe it or not, my high-level soulmate. And definitely same with my twin. That's why he gave me the article and said, look, if I do this, like, don't get triggered. Like, it's not you. I just can't do this. I need to, I need some time on my own. I need to process it. I can't articulate it. I don't want to. And just honor me and leave me the fuck alone when I feel this way. Just leave me the fuck alone, okay? Believe me. And that was how we did it. I was taught by a dog unconditional love. That's interesting that you said that, because my twin met a dog he loved called Westa. He was a little Scotty. And Scotty taught him that too. That is so wild that you said that. And he met Scotty, when that little Scotty Westa, when he was 66. Literally the year him and I got back together and came into union. And that little dog, he loved that, and that dog loved him. It was one of his friends. And when the year before he passed, I had an Irish wolfhound. He was Irish, and I have an Irish wolfhound, a girl. He loved my dog. I got him a cat, a black cat, when he was coming back to me, a cat that would be a reminder of a cat he used to love when he was in his 20s. And he came home to me, and the animals were his life. The animals just showed him so much love and so much trust, and it was very healing for him. So I could see that being true. That's really beautiful. I was put into a career role from a young age with my mom. Sensitivity and empathy was normal. Yes. And I think you guys came out really beautiful. But you know what? There are men raised by their mothers who came out red pillars. You know what I'm saying? And so you guys both, you were very blessed to have a mother who made you feel safe and honored your tears with as much grace as she honored your strength, your power as a masculine. And that's what I've been talking about, when women say, well, I was having this conversation with Andromeda a couple of days ago, and I was saying, what the fuck, man? I mean, every woman is like, because there's the gender war, and it's really triggering the fuck out of me, because I'm like, here we go being psyoped again on divide and conquer. But anyway, we were talking about, like, the concept of the first point of reference for a young masculine baby is its mother. I mean, I know they're trying to change that, but okay, let's go with that. Mother. So that means that if the child is not Mother. So that means that if the child is not connecting to the most important feminine in his life, I hate to say that, you're going to hate me for it, but it's the mother's fault. Like, what was she doing? I saw an interview recently, this whole movement of I'm childless and free. Okay, well, good. I'm glad you're free and not with child. But there was a mother who's complaining. She was on TikTok. Can you imagine doing that on TikTok? And saying, I really have no connection with my children. She was a young woman, so she was still raising those kids. I have no connection with my children. I just don't feel connected to them. It's such a burden to have them. It's awful. I wish I had never had children. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like, you just did that publicly? Like, maybe write some letters to yourself, burn them, I don't know, or whatever, right? Like, you're gonna, like, you don't think your kids are gonna come across that one day some quirky way? But anyway, okay. And so we were talking about it, and I was saying, what, it's her fault. Oh my, anyway, okay. And so we were talking about it, and I was saying, what, it's her fault. Oh my God, that's, most people say, well, why is it her fault? Well, it's her fault because what do you do with a baby? So another video that Andromeda saw was a very wealthy woman with a baby on a high chair going, well, we spend most of our days staring at each other. Staring at each other? What the fuck? That's all you do? So Andromeda and I were talking about, I was telling her when my son was born, the first 10 days of his life, he was in a baby carriage going into stores. By the time he was, what was it? Yeah, 2 months old, he was being propped up on pillows, right, on his baby carriage, and we were taking him to museums. I'm not kidding. We were going to art museums. We would go see the Buddhas at the Norton Simon downstairs. We would go to the Huntington Botanical Museum. We would take long walks in the park. By the time he could walk, he was still going to those museums. We did this for years, and we were reading books to him every night. Every night. Every night without fail until it was like 13. Yeah, 13. Yeah, that's when I stopped. And we had Sunday dinner. And we set up the table like it was Thanksgiving. And every Sunday we had dinner as a family. We took walks and hikes and so it's like, what do you mean you don't know what to do with your kid? So a relationship is something you create with your child. You have a baby. It's a sponge. It'll sponge whatever the fuck you want to give it to them. Anything you want. And so you've got to feed them as much. Was I a great mother? No, not at all. I fucking made a lot of mistakes. Absolutely. But the one thing I'll give myself credit for is that kid was involved. Everywhere I went, that kid went with me. Okay? Everywhere. In every situation. So that he became very comfortable meeting strangers and going up to them. To the point where when he was 5 years old, I would have him go up to strangers and go ask for directions, just as a premise. And then I'd say, how do you feel about this person? How did your body feel? How do you feel about this person? Was it a good person? No. Tell me why. How did it make you feel? Things like that. So there's so much you can do with a child, in particular a boy. And for women to say, I don't feel connected with my kid, well, you probably don't have any connection that are very tight with a lot of people then, because you don't have any connection that are very tight with a lot of people then, because you don't know how to create intimate bonds with people that are close to you, which include your children. And so when you have problems with, and let's be honest, who's raising the masculine? Women. And what are we doing wrong? Well, we must be, there's some things I think we're not hitting the marks. Believe me, just so you know, okay, just so you know, my son went and became a red pillar for a minute, just so you know. And he went through that, instead of having a blue mohawk, and tattoos and nose piercing, piercings all over his body, he went through the red pill for a moment. It lasted like 2 years, and we were both, my husband and I were like, what the fuck is going on? Thank God we didn't completely lose our shit. And he came back to us better than ever. So now, guess what he's doing? Videos on against red pillars, because he was one. So sometimes these souls go stealth, you know what I mean? They do shit, and you're like, what the fuck? This is not what we taught him. What the fuck? And then it turned out, thank God, it was all for the good of everyone. You know what I mean? So it's funny. I think it's funny. But for a minute, I fucking panicked. I gotta be honest. I was like, what the fuck? He's your son, not mine. Anyway, I went through a phase where I listened to Ben Shapiro. We all have our shadows. We all have our shadows. Let me just say that. What were my shadows? I don't know. I believe me, I've had shadows as a kid, but not anything crazy. Oh no, wait, I did have shadows. I had a mentality of being way overly people pleasing, and that to me is a shadow. It's very negative. Anyway, all right. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to pull this up so you guys can watch negative. Anyway, all right. Well,